Hey guys, Fatato here. So we're going to be continuing to talk about the small intestine. We took a look at the three different parts and kind of some different and unique anatomical things about them. We're going to really focus on how the final steps of breakdown and absorption happen in the duodenum and the jejunum. Remember, the duodenum is where we have the most digestion and the jejunum is where we have the most absorption. So what we're talking about on this specific slide that I mentioned earlier is contact digestion. And I talked about how important segmentation is to contact digestion. And the reason that the segmentation is so important is because the more the chyme can come into contact with the sides of the small intestine, the inside walls of the small intestine, the greater the absorption and the digestion can be. So that segmentation, that not only forward-backward peristalsis, but the side-to-side movement in a way, simplified way, allows for more contact. So why does the amount of contact even matter? Well, on the slide, there's a picture of the inside of your of your small intestine, and then it zooms in, okay? And from your days in bio, you know all about villi, so villi, and then you have microvilli, little hairs, on the villi, okay? So because this lining of the small intestine, the inside lining of the small intestine, has villi and microvilli, they say that it looks like a brush, like a hairbrush or like a hair comb, right? So it has all these bristles, which are the villi and the microvilli, all around it. So that's why when we talk about the inside lining of the small intestine, we say that the inside of the lining is a brush border, okay? Now, the other thing about this inside lining of the small intestine is there are enzymes that are on the brush border. They don't get mixed in with the chyme. They are attached to the brush border and they stay on the brush border. And those enzymes are called, wait for it, brush border enzymes. So you have this brush border, which is all these villi and microvilli, which incredibly increase surface area. We know that. And you have these enzymes that break down carbs, lipids, and proteins on the brush border called brush border enzymes. Here's where the contact part comes into play. The enzymes that are on the brush border can only work if the chyme comes into contact with them. So that segmentation, that moving of the food and the squeezing and the back and the forth and the side to the side, what that does is it's constantly making the chyme bump up against the walls and the lining of the small intestine. And every time it does that, more breaking down can occur. More breaking down occurs means more absorption occurs. The small intestine are entwined and covered in so many capillaries, specifically the jejunum, that a lot of absorption can happen, but we have to break them down small enough in order to have that absorption happen. When we talk about that really small breaking down, now that we're into the small intestine, for the most part, we've broken a lot of our large molecules down. All right, we probably don't have many polysaccharides that are still in our small intestine. We probably don't have many large polypeptides that are present. We might not have triglycerides, but we might still have some larger fats because we'll have to talk about, I would say last video you watched or last couple slides, you talked about the bile and what the bile does. So what we have happening with these enzymes in terms of breaking them down again is we have disaccharides right now. And now those disaccharides will be broken down into monosaccharides. So now we're as small as we can get. The triglycerides broken down to diglycerides. The diglycerides will now finally be broken down into fatty acids and glycerols after they're emulsified. Okay, emulsification first. And then your dipeptides, which is what you got after you broke down your polypeptides, your dipeptides will be broken down into individual or single amino acids. So it's kind of like that final step of breaking down those biomolecules from really, really big to not as big to tiny, tiny, tiny. Once they get to tiny, 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 then they can be absorbed. A lot of them are absorbed via active transport, primary or secondary active transport. And some of them, a bunch of them are also absorbed by passive transport, which you also learned about in biology class. So this idea of contact digestion, brush border enzymes, segmentation, all participates in the fact that you have the greatest digestion, the greatest breakdown, chemical digestion, and the greatest absorption in the small intestine. If you have any questions, shoot me a Schoology message. The concept of contact digestion is really important, guys. All right, I will talk to you later. See ya.